Hi, everyone. It is now 3 o'clock. Look at you, Judge Stackhouse. Looking all fancy.
Awesome. Zena, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
So I've gotten 4 notices of people that can't be here. You want to give people a few minutes to get on?
Sounds good.
Okay.
My apologies. I'll have to leave a little early. I think we usually go till 4:30, but I've got to pick my kids up at 4. So I'll have to leave before then so I can get to the dance studio. So my apologies.
I got you. No problem. There's a little more light on me.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Craig, I don't know if you want to share before we get started what you said with me earlier about maybe public comment or something, since we're delayed a few minutes.
Yeah. So, if there's something, my thinking was that if there's something that perhaps people want to bring up or they want to address, maybe after we've worked ourselves through the agenda points, then right there at the end, it may be appropriate to actually have, comments or questions. And also, I know that after this meeting, I would probably like to briefly meet with the co-chairs. But that's only if you all agree to it. Councilwoman Brandy Matthews, is there any way that you can send her the link via phone? Linnea, I know she was traveling earlier. I sent her the phone number and the passcode, but she just me back and said she couldn't get on the call.
Oh, okay. Let's see what Linnea can do. I don't have her phone number. Can I send you it to send to her? You're muted if you're talking to me.
I don't know how to do all that, but what I'll do is I will send it to you in chat. Her phone number. Can you do it?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if I can do it, but we'll see. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, here's the phone number stuff. So how do you want me to send that to you? You're muted.
Oh, no, I was looking. Let me.
Or can you read that on my screen?
No, let me send you. I'm getting ready to put her number in chat.
Okay.
And right now, and so you can send it to her, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not. Do you have it?
Yes.
I'm not technologically advanced as some of you younger folk.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say something, but it's
Ah.
probably not. Hello, it's probably not appropriate. Hello. Ooh, this is interesting.
And Councilwoman Matthews just texted me back and said that she wasn't that far from home and she would try to get on. So,
Okay.
and she's on the call now.
She's online now?
That's what she just sent me.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the number you just sent me. Okay, good. Okay. We have 13 people here now. Do we want to wait or we want to go ahead and get started? Oh, 14. Everybody's muted.
My
But
vote
Linnea,
start. My
You-
vote is start.
go ahead and start. How y'all feel about that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to ask Chief or one of the co-chairs to welcome everybody so we can officially get started.
Hello, I'll do it. I'm Chief West. Welcome, everybody. I don't have my video up. I'm having a bad day, so I chose not to put my video up. But anyway, welcome. Glad everybody could make it. I know we had a meeting earlier this week just with the co-chairs and the vice co-chairs, and I think it was a very productive meeting. So I'm excited that this meeting is going to be high speed and we're going to be moving forward and we're going to get a lot accomplished. So again, welcome everybody, and I appreciate everybody's time and interest in wanting to participate in that.
All right, thank you. So as always, I try to start the meeting off with a little icebreaker and then we will go right into the agenda. And so tomorrow is one of my favorite days of the year. My family is from Texas, so we have been celebrating Juneteenth my whole family life. But I know a lot of people don't know about Juneteenth. How many people have actually participated in a Juneteenth celebration? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4. Yeah, good. So, so I just thought some people know the historical significance of Juneteenth, especially now that it's going to be a federal holiday. I think more people are going to be learning more and more about it. Being from my family, being from Texas, Juneteenth is actually kind of a sad day for us. We kind of take it as a we learned a little too late, unlike everybody else kind of day. So in some places we kind of think it's a little embarrassing. But anyway, I thought it would be a good moment for people to kind of learn about it, and then we can have a quick 5-minute discussion, and then we will be on to our full steam ahead agenda. That'll give a few people a few more minutes to get online. And so yeah, so I thought we would watch this. And of course I did it the wrong way.
For many Black Americans, Independence Day is not July 4th. It's June 19th, or Juneteenth, the day the last enslaved people in the US were told they were free. This year's will be feted with a little more urgency, after George Floyd's death reignited Black Americans' fight for equality. President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. But 2.5 long years passed between enslaved Texans being declared free to them being told about it. News traveled pretty slowly in the 19th century, and even slower for slave owners trying to avoid it. During the Civil War, they fled west, taking thousands of enslaved people far from where Union forces could liberate them. But on June 19th, 1865, General Gordon Granger stood on the balcony of a home made with slave labor to read an order that gave an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. But absolute equality has been eluding Black Americans ever since. Although Juneteenth celebrations would pop up outside of Texas, a century of fighting to survive lynching, segregation, and Jim Crow laws tempered the anniversary's national momentum. After Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination in 1968, his Poor People's Campaign settled on June 19th for its Solidarity Day rally, which symbolically connected the fight against poverty to enslaved ancestors. Since then, states have slowly come around to officially recognizing the holiday. Texas fittingly was the first in 1980, marking a day that late state representative Al Edwards said triggered a series of events that defines the challenges and responsibilities of successive generations. New Hampshire became the latest state last year. But this is still the country that killed Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, and George Floyd. A country whose president called Americans protesting the injustice thugs. The distance from true equality may be what kept Black Americans from celebrating Juneteenth. But today, the journey toward closing that gap is exactly what makes it meaningful. This year, it comes as protesters demand that institutions who claim to protect Black Americans don't target them, that the companies who market to Black Americans, including ours, also hire them and pay them fairly, and that the system that's made Black Americans more vulnerable to COVID-19 and the economic crisis is broken. Over 150 years later, Juneteenth is still about how long absolute equality takes to arrive.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
So what'd you think?
I thought it was really good and informative. I was stationed in San Antonio, Texas, so that was my first introduction to Juneteenth, and I got really involved. But prior to that, knew nothing really about it, and just excited to see that it's a national holiday. It's just my hope that with this, comes more responsibility for us to just move forward with voting rights and all those other things that we need to do, and not wait every year to do a celebration. And that's it. I think we mark it from one year to the next, and celebrate any advancements and things that we've done as far as progress.
Yes. Any other thoughts?
Well, I was in looking at that, I was reminded of city council meeting last week. And also that last week was the anniversary of D-Day. Is that right?
You might. You're probably
Anyway.
right. My
Anyway.
history, that wasn't my history knowledge.
But one of the comments that one of the city council members said was that, soldiers during World War II basically went and fought to give us the right to have the type of dialogue that we was having at the city council meeting. And what I'm very much aware of is that we're still fighting to have those rights. People are still dying to have those rights, right? It wasn't something that was accomplished when our American soldiers went, across to Europe to, stop the rise of Nazi Germany, but it's something that's ongoing. And there is no fulfillment of the American dream until without struggle. And I'll just leave it at that. And it costs us all something. Some of us have to give more than others, but it's going to cost someone something, and it's not free.
Anybody else? And then we'll wrap up.
Can't hear you, Linnea. I think that was you that was speaking.
Yeah, you can't hear me at all? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I was just saying, did anybody else have any other comments or one last? It's not a trick. It's just just something, I have, it's been very interesting to me to see how popular Juneteenth, the holiday, has become, because when I was a little girl, it was a very sad day. It was almost like a Holocaust remembrance day for my family, and so it would be almost like New Year's Eve, where they would make black eyed peas and, be a special menu, special sit around and talk about why we learned about it last and how much did that cost us. And does that make us feel less than or disconnected than the rest of the Black formerly enslaved states, where we've forgotten about was a lot of the kind of feeling that we had around the table. So anyway, I hope that when you celebrate Juneteenth and people have their barbecues and things like that, they think of also what it meant to the people, that how important it was to celebrate freedom in such a unique way, I think. And considering that most students and young people in this country, I think it's 1 in 7 young people are educated from the state of Texas. It's important to know that that is a big legacy in history that we all are connected to some kind of way. All right, can you still hear me? Okay, so let's move on. We have a full agenda today. And I am going to put up our agenda on here so we can get going. So as Chief said, we had the co-chairs and the new Captain Adams. We had a great meeting this week talking about how we're going to move this initiative forward and what all we need to do to get in place. And so one of our final discussion pieces for the last time that we met was to have a conversation or finish our conversation about the co-chairs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so with that conversation, I'd like to go ahead and, is it okay if I go ahead and call the nominations out, or do we need to have further discussion about that third and final community-based co-chair?
I'm okay with going ahead with calling nominations out.
Okay. So I only received one nomination. Mr. Dustin Pittman. Any thoughts, comments? Is that okay? No one's saying anything.
And I think Reverend Reese was also nominated the prior week, but I'm not sure if she's here or what.
I got an email from her saying that she had moved, she had
Okay.
relocated.
All right.
So I assumed that meant that she wasn't interested, but I am. willing to entertain that as well. She did not accept the nomination last time, so.
Well, I move that we accept the nomination of Dustin Pittman and move to that he be elected as the third community chair.
Okay. Can we have a consensus vote on that? Thumbs up, thumbs down, hi.
I agree.
Okay. So we have a thumbs up on Dustin Pittman being our third and final co-chair. Thumbs up, thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mr. Pittman, is it acceptable to you?
It is.
Okay.
I'm
You
here.
didn't vote on yourself either, so I didn't know what that meant.
I don't believe it's appropriate, but I'm here. I'm just at the first day of a summer program that I work at every year, so I'm gonna be muted and off so that I'm not interrupting too badly.
Okay, but so it's okay for you to be nominated and you accept the vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. So welcome, Mr. Pittman. You are now our third and final co-chair. Yeah. We will be, hopefully I'll start sending you some emails, and we will have our next meeting. We will have a meeting in the month of July, but we as a group are going to take the month off for July. So we will not be meeting next month, but the co-chairs will. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that was so easy. Yay. All right, moving on. So who won? We had Judge Stackhouse. Did you want to have a conversation about data real quick? And co-chairs as well?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay. Feel free, take the
And we
floor.
had some robust conversation amongst the committee earlier this week about that situation. For those who don't know, we already have data from, and correct me if I make a mistake here, anybody else, but data from Goldsboro Police Department. Right away, they provided data, and the sheriff's office as well. So those are what we have so far. I'm not sure what the state of, not sure what they look like. That we're working on that. Right now we're in a holding pattern to see if we can get more data from other places. And two major places we're trying to get is from the Department of Juvenile Justice, DJJ, and also from our Wayne County school system. And for those who don't know, also, Judge James asked me to take her place. She retired unexpectedly for all of us at the courthouse, but back on May 31st, and she asked me if I would take her place on this program, on this committee, and I accepted. And she provided me with emails of showing her efforts to try and get data from the state level of DJJ regarding Wayne County data. And the list, I've got it right here, it's about 13 pages of emails, and reading them, I see the frustration she's had in trying to get data from the Department of Juvenile Justice, not locally, but on the state level up in Raleigh. So I've today seen that I've called, actually, instead of emails, I've called up there and left a message, and I'm hoping I'll get a response. They're getting data requires all sorts of paperwork you have to file, the purpose that you're getting it, how you're going to keep it protected, what are you going to do with it when you're done. Because this data involves juveniles, I think the school system's having the same issue getting their data. That's got to be protected, and you got to be careful what data you give out, because even with the name of the person being deleted, there's still ways that an intelligent person could find out who that juvenile is. So we're hitting Judge James certainly did hit a wall in trying to get that, and I will do my best to try and scale that wall. We discussed that, the committee discussed that if by our next meeting, we're unsuccessful in getting any more data from other sources, then we just need to accept what we have and get that data analyzed and move on, because I think we're already behind in that regard. So that's the update. Will we? We'll see. If we don't, if we do, then great. We'll figure out how to analyze it, all that together. And if we don't, then all we have is GPD data and sheriff's office data, then we'll move forward with that. What I'd really like to get is that school system data, because a lot of court cases, juvenile court cases, originate from school. Really, the only, I guess, just thinking out loud, the only the DJJ data would only tell us what happens in court. It doesn't tell us about the contact and how the case got to court in the first place. It might tell us, who is more successful or while on juvenile probation, and what types of dispositions there are after someone's found to be responsible for a crime in juvenile court. But the initial data, the contacts that juveniles have with law enforcement initially and the school system, that'd be the most valuable data. So we'll see. That's an update for you.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
And this is Jerry Burns. Did Judge James not share with you the information that our IT department did provide for her back in March? Linnea, you've never seen that either? The information.
Was it those little summaries? It was just some like a spreadsheet, a short little spreadsheet. Is that what you're talking about?
They, over the 5 years, the accumulation of juveniles that had been in our office, in the charges, the ages, the race, is what after speaking with our leaders, what they said to her. And that was back in March.
I might not have seen that. Maybe we should circle back and check on that together.
I think that's what we were hoping to get. So if we had that for Wayne County, then
our IT presented that to her back in March. I can forward it to you now.
That'd be great.
I haven't been in contact with Judge James since June 1st because I think she headed off to Ecuador for a while with her husband. So
now it does not include names of juveniles and anything specific that would identify who that child is. It just gives you an overview of what the charges were during that period of time, how frequently a particular charge occurred here in this area, age, and a lot of the demographic information. But I do know that our legal had all kind of problems with releasing specifics about the actual child, and even when it comes to consultation with law enforcement, the statute covers what conversation we can have with law enforcement. If it's involving an active investigation, we can, but just not generically talk about a kid. And so the statute, kind of mums us when it comes to that. But I'll get what I have to you. Okay. I thought you, Linnea, because one of the emails back in March, she responded, "Can I share this with Linnea?" And I said, absolutely. This is what our IT has put together for you guys. Okay.
All right. Well, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing
just
first, and then
you'll get it as soon as I can forward it to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Did anybody else have anything to add about data, the type of the conversation? I know Dr. Craig, you had a lot to say.
One of the things I do want to say is that I understand, how sensitive data is, but sometimes we may need to actually link the data in order to get a more fuller picture. And if that is the case, I'm willing to work with whoever so that we can link the data, get a more fuller analysis, as long as we can get it soon. And I'll be willing to do that.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else on this data conversation before we move on?
And
Yes.
Dr. Craig, that is something that I actually was working on probably a year ago, trying to figure out a way to link all of this data together, so that making sure we're not duplicating and presenting, the same kid 6 different ways to say that there's 6 different charges and issues. And that's part of that same problem we're having that Mr. Burns was talking about and Judge Stackhouse has been talking about, with being able to identify the juvenile. So I've got a plan. I guess we'll talk when the co-chairs get together about what the plan we had was, to see if we can now make that happen with the group we have. So.
And that one of the suggestions I made was, since Dr. Craig is connected to the local community college, I know that sometimes having that university or college connection can kind of make the IRB process move a little simpler, because I know that that's typically how these data requests are handled. But anyway, I'm looking forward to a more robust data conversation, and being able to equip you all with the best information possible as we are going forward. But know this, that the hard data that we're seeking is just one piece of the data puzzle that we are going to assemble to be able to really have a true understanding of the situation that's going on in Goldsboro-Wayne. The hard numbers tell one part of the story, but it is not the full story. And so what part of our process of working through is to collect the full story with the full context of all that contributes to young people and their trials and tribulations in growing up in Goldsboro-Wayne. So with that in mind, I think we're ready to move on the agenda, unless anybody else has anything critical we need to share to our discussion. All right, looks like no hands or anything are up. Okay, so really quickly, today we are going to have our first youth issues discussion, and I wanted to remind people of being nice and supportive listeners and having good conversation. So I actually asked Dr. Craig if he'd be willing to talk with us about setting some ground rules about discussion. So Dr. Craig.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to stifle dialogue or anyone's expression, but rather to facilitate our meetings in an orderly and structured way. The ground rules are as follows. As Director Foster is the facilitator of the Goldsboro-Wayne RED DMC Reduction Initiative, unless otherwise specified, Director Foster will conduct the meeting. This means that Director Foster will recognize persons who have the floor to speak and express themselves verbally. At no time should persons speak to the group verbally without first being recognized to do so. Please keep your audio muted unless requesting to speak or being recognized to do so by Director Foster. It is preferred that we all use the Zoom raise hand function. However, that option may not be available for persons meeting via their telephone. Also, please be courteous and mindful of your chat responses as they are part of the record. Director Foster.
Thank you. Okay, so my ground rules mine are much more emotional and supportive, but I want you to make sure that we all listen deeply to everybody. We accept each other's reality, and that we ask compassionate questions or make compassionate statements if we can. I want you to challenge yourself to look at the situation honestly, and see what potentially maybe some role that you play. I want you to expect and accept non-closure, that there may not be an answer for some of this. And I want you to expect some discomfort. I want you to allow others to learn what you already know from your perspective, and from their perspective. And I want you to respect confidentiality. I'm happy to hear stories, but I don't want to hear names. And then I want you to take care of yourself. So if it gets too hot or too excited, if you can't do it, feel free to send an email or call me individually, and we can also talk in different formats and in different locations. So with that in mind, we're gonna start. Does anybody have any questions about that? Any questions at all? Okay. So today I wanted us to just, first of all, this conversation is about youth issues. What are the biggest issues that young people are facing in Goldsboro and in Wayne County? And this is your time. There are no rules. I'm not focusing on anything in particular, just what are some of the issues that young people in Goldsboro and Wayne are dealing with. And feel free to raise your hand when you're ready, whoever wants to talk first. No one? Okay. Miss Artis, please share.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
I just think that there's not a lot of activities, positive activities for our youth to take part of, and that's basically it. If we had something for them to do that did not cost a lot of money, I think that they would be less hanging out, hanging on the street, and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yes.
I hear. Okay. Who else? Mr. Starkey? Starkey?
Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I was just going to kind of reiterate what was just said about the limitations of activities for some of the younger people, but also I just think that just the easy access of just illicit drugs in the community. My wife, she works for the Watch van, and she said they have a high number of young individuals who come in who are addicted to heroin. So, I'm thinking that, just, I don't know where we would start to kind of find a way to maybe limit the access to, like I said, the easy access to those drugs. But, just maybe finding a way to at least find a way to maybe stop that. And then another thing would be probably just opportunity for jobs that pay a little bit more than just minimum wage. A lot of times the younger generation feel like the jobs that are out there are not paying enough, or either there's just too much work involved for the money. So I think we need to find a way to show them ways to make the money they want, but do it in the right way, whether it be start being an entrepreneur or have them understand the concept of apprenticeship that can lead to a job or something like that.
Okay. Anybody else? Miss Perkins, Dr. Perkins.
Good afternoon. I would say we have a lot of community resources that are out for the youth. However, it's difficult to get a lot of the organizations involved, and it's the same community leaders trying to bridge the gap for our youth to link them to some of these resources. I forgot the individual who just spoke before me, but there are a lot of jobs that are out that are actually paying more than minimum wage. There are a lot of training skill opportunities that our youth can actually get for free. They can actually take these, even starting from high school, to be linked, and then actually to hopefully land a job after they finish high school. However, what has been going on for years is you have a lot of community agencies and a lot of different things that are going on that's positive in the community, but you got the same.
You cut out, Dr. Perkins. I can't hear you at all. Oh, I'm losing it. Okay. Kim, we'll come back to you. Mr. Pittman?
So
Okay.
just to make sure I understand exactly what we're talking about here, what are we, when we're talking about youth issues, what are we looking for with this concept?
So I just want to know, what are some of the major issues that young people are dealing with, and how they might end up, how it could affect them negatively or even positively. And most people often opt to go negative first. But this is an opportunity just to kind of give me a destination or some places to start looking. So.
Okay. Well, we have a couple awesome tools over in the juvenile side of the world, one of which is the risk and needs assessment, now what we call the YASI assessment that Mr. Burns and his staff do when a juvenile is involved with juvenile justice. And as chair of JCPC, I've kept an eye on that data over the years to see how it's been progressing. And so a couple of years ago, I did a 3-year assessment. So I guess it's a year old. But among the list of things that have been identified, at least in the juvenile justice concept, mental health has been a major concern. 79% of juveniles assessed in the year 18 and 19 had some level of mental health need or unaddressed need. They were either in some sort of therapy or needing it. Negative peer association was a total of around 60 to 70%, and that's gang activity and just negative peer association. In other words, associating with other juveniles that had found themselves in the delinquent context as well. The lack of parental supervision was on that list. Based upon the assessment, getting to that data, about 60% of the homes of the juveniles that we found in the juvenile system had marginal parenting skills. 69% of the parents had marginal parenting skills versus a state average of about 48. And so that's been a major concern we've seen. As others have said, drug use and alcohol, about 30% of juveniles assessed have had drug use and alcohol problems that are usually not being addressed at all. I think that's what I've got, at least from what I looked at with risk and needs a few years ago.
Okay. All right. And Miss Matthews.
Good afternoon, you guys. So a couple of things, I've been working with kids since 2010. And one thing that I think our young people have going for us, I'm going to start positive first, is they are crazy creative. And I'm seeing more of our young people wanting to be entrepreneurs. They want to be social change agents. And I would like to see, and I have to agree with Dr. Perkins to some degree. I think there are community resources, but I would like to see some of those resources in a way that can nurture some of that creativity. The Boys and Girls Club just had a group, a Smart Girls group, and out of that group, some young girls decided to create some body scrub and different things like that. So, I would like to see more organizations nurture that type of creativity and let them know that it's okay, and we can stop this hamster wheel that everyone has to go to college and everyone has to do it this way. I would love to see more career assessments for our young kids to see what they're actually interested in. You know, I'm finding that a lot of kids are interested in the arts, and they're interested in theater and all these other kind of things. So I would like to see that. I found that bullying plays a major role in what's happening inside of our classrooms. I mean, if we take an honest look at what has happened, our young kids are committing suicide and they're feeling worthless. So I would also like to look into that as well, and let kids understand that cyberbullying is a real thing and it has some real severe consequences to it. And the most devastating being someone taking their life. So those are a couple of things that I see happening with our young people. And I will have to leave a little early. We have a council meeting at 5. So I do want to thank everyone for being here today. And I will see you guys very soon.
Okay. Anybody else have any things to contribute? Dr. Craig?
Yes, ma'am. I think that a lot of the issues that our young people encounter that perhaps push them or guides them in a negative way are absolutely due to the overall economic situation in our county and our city. You know, when a person or a teenager or young person doesn't have a working parent or two working parents, it negatively impacts them in different ways. Now, let me give you an example. My brother, when I was in the military, he got into a fight with the next door neighbor about a girl. They were fighting over a girl. Well, the house on Virginia Street, when the police came, he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon with intent to inflict serious bodily harm. Now, it just so happens that, you know, at that time, my mother was a registered nurse and my stepfather was a supervisor for the city of Goldsboro. So they had the money to pay for an attorney such that, you know, that situation got sealed. You know, when he turned 18, you get in more trouble. A lot of kids don't have that. So it's not necessarily that, you know, all kids are, well, sometimes those little hits will take people that don't have the resources more out of the game because they don't have someone to help them get back up on their feet, right? And I was thinking about what Mr. Pittman said about the parenting skills. Well, I mean, that's totally tied to economics, right? I mean, even if you are a terrible parent and you're wealthy, you can hire someone to help you raise your kids, right? So what I'm saying is all of those things matter. And, you know, it's not to beat this thing to her, but as Hillary Clinton says, it takes us all to raise a kid. It takes a community. It takes us all.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Dr. Perkins, did you want to try to finish? I know you got cut off.
No, Councilwoman Matthews, she touched on some of the things I was going to talk about. So I put a stamp on what she said.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
So can I ask some probing questions? So when we talk about no access to jobs, and then we hear that there are some potential jobs that young people can access, and so then my question is, so what is the breakdown? No one jump all at once. Okay. Ms. Matthews.
I think that, thank you for putting my hand down. I've been trying to figure that thing out.
I think I figured that out. I think I figured that part.
A year later, I should know how to do this Zoom thing, right? But I think one of the situations that I think is stopping it is we as adults have to be willing to take chances on our young people as well. And you know, I kind of still like to call myself young, but they're valuable, and their brains are valuable, their innovation is valuable. And I think sometimes we can be a little judgy. And I'm a fan of nurturing young people, because sometimes, you know, they don't have that village that Dr. Craig was referring to. So we are their village, you know, and I would like to see adults and business owners just be willing to take more chances. You know, shout out to the Ice Storm, who's running a summer youth program right now where they're hiring young people. Like, the program is designed for young people, and you know, that's just one of the things that I think we can do. But not taking a chance on our young people, I think, is one thing that, and then treating them a certain type of way once they get there is also, you know, a problem too that I see.
So Judge Stackhouse, you're muted, by the way.
Yes, sir. My computer app doesn't have the raise hand function available.
Okay, so you have to go like this to me.
I was raising my hand 5 minutes ago. So I've been spending the 5 minutes trying to figure that out. But to your question, I was going to, as to youth issues today, particularly issues that we didn't have, and Brandy already discussed this. Social media is just, it's a monster in children's lives. I mean, everybody has a cell phone now in middle school, it seems like. You know, they didn't really even exist in the form they do now. And so, you know, kids are on social media all the time. Disagreements occur on social media and then are available for the whole school and the whole world to read and listen to, and it creates, you know, friction, and people get embarrassed. And you know, if you accidentally drop your shorts and only a few people see it, well, then that's embarrassing to a few people. But if it was being recorded or something and then put on social media, the whole world sees it, you know. And it's not just that issue of one bully doing it. Now it's an issue that, you know, there's serious psychological consequences. And so we do see that a lot in our courts, that social media just has an impact, and it's often more often than not a detrimental impact when it comes, particularly when it comes to kids. So, well, and I did not, as I was looking to see what what my issue was, or your second question was. Linnea, what was it?
Oh, it was about if there are jobs, but there's not a connection to people getting the jobs, then what's the breakdown? So, Mr. Pittman, did you want to share first?
Yes, mainly I just wanted to show off that the raise hand function is available on my app. But additionally, I wanted to say that another one of the issues I think we were seeing, and I'm seeing, I guess, and Judge Stackhouse brought it to mind, is that we are way too quick as a society now to go to court. You know, things that happened when I was in school stayed in my school, and that was it. But now a charge is going to be brought by someone either in juvenile court or when they're, you know, have the potential to be in adult court. Something's going to make it to the courthouse, and that just needs to be addressed somehow.
That's a good point. Yeah, I got into enough fights myself, so I know. So I mean, you know, so because you all haven't met me in person, I'm 6 foot tall, and I was 5'9" in the 5th grade. So people were always trying me. Boys and girls alike. So if fighting was, I would have been in a dangerous spot. Anyway, Dr. Perkins. Dr. Perkins, no. Okay, Miss Matthews.
Yes, I got.
Oh,
I had
okay.
another barrier when it comes to the resources or maybe the opportunities that the youth have in Wayne County is transportation. We have a serious transportation barrier when it comes to the children that may want to work and get employed, go to school for a trade to get trained in a trade that they would like, because as Councilman Matthews said, when I was growing up, and I'm, getting a little older in age, but it was college. Every child is not going to get a 4-year degree or an associate's degree. And as we're seeing now, trades are up. Trades, getting a trade, these occupations, the certain trade occupations, they're making a lot of money. And so if the children want to go to the community college to get some of these skills that's maybe available and to be able to obtain a job, they don't have any transportation. They don't have it, it's in, yes, we have Gateway, but Gateway stops running at a certain amount of time. A certain time during the day, and it does not go across all of Wayne County. So transportation is definitely a barrier.
Okay, Mr. Colberg.
Yes, I definitely agree with everything that everybody said, particularly Dr. Perkins with the transportation issue. But the other issue is that and I'll go back to what Miss Matthews used to always say: there's gold in Goldsboro. I promise you that. And we have a lot of great organizations doing a lot of great things, but the problem is that they're in silos. So if Miss Perkins has a program that she's doing, and if I'm not, and I'm just using this as an example, this isn't her, she's all over. But if I'm not in her circle of influence, then I don't know about that program, and I might do something and duplicate that program over here, where if we would just come together and figure out a way to share resources and then be able to get the information out there, I think that more youth would know what's going on, in addition to other people in the community. And that's just from me working in the community and seeing, for example, tomorrow there's probably going to be about 4 to 5 great things for Juneteenth. There's going to be a big celebration over here and things like that. And I don't think in the planning of those things, none of those organizations really talk. So you're going to be stretching people to try to support all these organizations and all of these activities on tomorrow.
Okay. Miss Matthews.
One more thing, y'all. So I also think we have to be willing to go where our kids are. With our inner city kids, sometimes they don't have the same resources and access to things like the kids in the county. And some neighborhoods where kids are so beautifully tucked away, they don't oftentimes have that same access. So sometimes it means taking the water to them, and we oftentimes say, hey, okay, you can lead a horse to water. Well, I tend to try to be a little bit more persuasive and see how I can get that horse to drink, but we have to be willing to go where our kids are as well, to reach all of our kids.
Did you already speak, Mr. Colebrook? Do I need to lower your hand?
Oh, no, I wanted to come back in and
okay.
Definitely, I'm sorry, and definitely agree with what Councilwoman Matthews said, is that, we do a lot of things in addition to kind of doing them separately. We do them in certain locations, and then we, broadcast it, and then we wonder why. Well, transportation is an issue, and, kids just can't come, like kids in West Haven and other areas out there. And she's right. We got to take the water to them, and it also lets them know, that we care about them. When we look at our education system, they're looking for summer tutors right now. Well, it's hard for them to get summer tutors because the education system doesn't have a relationship with the community, and so it's hard for you to get anything accomplished when you don't have a relationship. And right now, our education system, our Wayne County Public Education doesn't have a relationship with the community because they don't cater to the customers, and the customers are the parents and the kids, and they don't take the stuff and bring them into the communities. They want the community to come to them. So excellent point, Councilwoman Matthews. I agree 100%.
Dr. Craig? You're muted, Dr. Craig.
I'm going to also say part of the issue is belief and identification. It's hard for me to believe that I got a chance to make it when I see people who are trying to make it or who have made some headway, then totally get ran over. You know, people, look, I'll just put this out here. Look, if y'all don't think what happened to Bevan Foster and Antonio Williams through the city council negatively impacted how Black youth identified with either deviant others or people in the mainstream, then you're mistaken. Because I'll tell you right now, you know, as the saying goes, excuse my language, but don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. And a whole lot of times, you know, young people, they're very smart. And you sit here and you want them to believe and put forth some effort, and they say, well, damn, look at them. They don't want this, they done did this, but look how y'all treat them. And then they take a couple of hits. I'm just saying. So part of, you know, also what's at play is we need to make this, our society, a more equitable and fair society so that people can believe. And if I believe, then it's kind of like the little engine that could, you know, I'll take one step. Oh man, I got this far. Well, when I take that one step and I get this skill set, and then I'm able to master that, then maybe I'll go a little bit further and I'll get something else. Before you know it, you know, I got a toehold. I'm in the system. I'm not about to deviate then. But if you know, if you got to come through all the turns and twists, and then there's the quote unquote man sitting there saying, boy, let me stop. You know, I'm gonna stop you and anybody that come like you. And if you don't be the type of person I want you to be, although you're not doing anything illegal, I'm gonna put a stop to you. Oh no, that's reason right then and there for me not to believe, throw up my hands and basically say, F you. I'm just being real.
I'm gonna have to process that one a little bit more. I wanted to ask Ms. Coley, did you have anything to share before I totally, and then maybe Ms. Jones, anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak yet?
It's all been covered. The things that I think of and know about have been covered. So I didn't see a need to extend the time.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I just wanted to check in, make sure everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? In your opinion, and this is your opinion, there's no problem. Any thoughts from the law enforcement perspective?
I mean, I've been taking notes the whole time we've been going through this, and I haven't written anything down yet, or I haven't heard anything yet that I can disagree with. I think everything that's being said is point on. I do think that sometimes there's ulterior motives that want to prevent others from succeeding. And I see it and I get frustrated with it a lot. But I do think there is a disconnect as far as with our youth for adults. Even when I have young officers, I don't consider young officers so much as being youth, but they have some of the freshest ideas and some of the greatest minds. I've been doing it for 29 years. I'm not I'm kind of burned out or kind of on the backside of it, but when it was mentioned earlier about, I think Ms. Matthews said that these youth, they are the gold mine in the community, and they're the ones we can't just discount because it's coming from a youth. It's coming from a young person. What they say matters, and I think they've got a good prospect for this community. And I think sometimes the adults, for whatever reasons, are the ones that are kind of hampering it. As far as with the community, law enforcement can help with the community, the environment that some of these youth grow up in. The adults, law enforcement, the city, we need to address that and help that. But yeah, I haven't heard anything that's been said yet that I can sit here and disagree with. I think everything is very spot on.
Okay. Mr. Starkey, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know where this thought would fit in it, but one thing, just being working with the youth and mentoring over the years, one thing I've seen to be a major problem is for the ones that do take advantage of the job placement resources out here and they get the opportunity to land a job. A lot of times these individuals are in a situation where they have bills already. So they have a house, they have, a child, another thing. So they're trying to get something that kind of really, they need money now. And, they're on this job and I think we need to do whenever these jobs get them, employment, it would be good if we could do an assessment, say, hey, these are some resources that could help you maybe if you need to catch up on your rent, your light, your water, because a lot of times whenever the individuals get a job and the money is not coming in fast enough, they decide, okay, you know what, I need to go back to what worked for me because I wasn't having to struggle. I'm still struggling. This is supposed to be working for me.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you. Anybody else? So can I probe? Oh, are you done, Mr. Starkey, or did you have another comment?
I'm sorry. Yes, that was my end. I'm done.
Okay. All right. So I have another question to kind of follow up on what you all just shared. So I heard gang activity. I've heard about access to drugs. I've heard about alcohol. Is there anything in particular about drugs or gang activity that you all want to talk about? If somebody's talking, I sure can't hear it. Dr. Craig, yes. You're still muted though.
Well, again, it goes back to that in terms, at least part of my perspective is when someone identifies with a gang, they're not seeing those gang members as being negative. They're seeing those gang members as being my boys, my peeps, my fam. We down like 4 flat tires, as the saying goes. We down for ours, and just like they down for theirs, we down for ours. What I'm saying is, you got to open your hearts. We have to open our hearts, and we have to open our resources up to these children, because if they don't identify with people who have a toehold or a connection in the system, then they're going to identify with someone, because we are social beings, okay? Nobody, really is going to make it by themselves. We all rely on others. And if I can't have, Barack Obama, or if I can't, if I can't have Bill Clinton, then I'm just saying figuratively, then I'm gonna have somebody. If I can't have the preacher, I'm gonna have somebody in my corner. All right. And the more I identify with them, the more I'm around them, and I don't have access to these other people to pull me in a different direction, then the more likely I am to engage in what people call deviant behavior and criminal activity.
So what about in terms of those things, are we hearing anything or seeing anything in regards to guns or violence? Don't all speak at once. Mr. Pittman.
I mean, as a defense attorney here in Goldsboro that primarily handles, and I'm primarily the one that handles Class A through D felonies for juveniles. Yes.
Both in violence?
Yes. Guns more than violence, but yes, okay. Guns a lot.
Okay. Okay. And what is there anything? Okay, yes, Judge Stackhouse. I saw your hand that time. Go ahead. You're muted, by the way.
Yes. Seems like 10 years ago in juvenile court, you didn't have armed robberies and attempted murders charges and or suspicions. And it seems like this year in particular and last year, if there was a shooting in Goldsboro, it was done by somebody with a teenager, with a teenage number next to their name of age, and which is just wild. And yes, we've had a huge spike in gun violence among teenagers, or just 2021 recently, which is very concerning.
Anybody have any thoughts about anybody else about that? Yes.
Jerry Burns, I agree with Judge Stackhouse and Mr. Attorney Pittman. We have seen a rash of gun charges, armed robbery, but it's not just unique to Goldsboro. And Stackhouse can relate. Lenore County, it has its share of armed robberies and gun offenses. And when I speak to my colleagues here in the other 29 counties in the eastern area of North Carolina, that's pretty much a problem across the board. And a lot of times when you're watching the news, you'll hear that teenagers are involved. So it is something that has kind of spiraled. Definitely going back to when I started out as a court counselor several years ago. It's the type of charges have definitely changed.
Okay. Mr. Starkey.
I just had a question. I think I heard correctly. They said in 2020 we saw an increase in gun activity.
Mr. Pittman, Mr. Stackhouse, Mr. Burns.
I'd say that's fair to say early 2020.
Okay, and the reason I ask that because a lot of times I know we're talking about gun violence and the increase in the guns for that, but a lot of times there's underlying reasons why sometimes we see an increase in something. And just in my opinion, personally, I believe with the past year, with social media we have, as much as I love it, it has been detrimental, and we have had access to see a lot of situations where individuals were confronted by neighbors, police officers, and the sorts, to where it was recorded and it became racial. So I believe a lot of individuals felt like, you know what? So I don't find myself in this situation. I'm going to get a firearm, but somewhere in the mix, they wind up with the wrong crowd. And then one reason to protect themselves led into, okay, now I'm going to use this weapon for something else. And that's just my opinion, because it kind of coincides. We saw the increase last year of a lot of video footage on YouTube, Instagram of these incidents. And then you said we have an increase in gun violence also. Also, we had the big emergence of our Black Lives Matter movement also.
Okay. Okay, it is now 4:15. Just to check in with everybody, to let everybody know we are approaching towards the end of time. So Dr. Craig, I know you have another comment, and then I had one more question, and then we can wrap up on this discussion for now. You sure?
Yeah.
We have time.
All right. Well, what I'll say is, yes, guns, but it's also mindset. Look, I am from Goldsboro, and I lost a friend of mine. Well, I lost several friends to gun violence. But one person in particular, to me, very nice, respectful guy, he got killed for a pound of marijuana. Now, a pound of marijuana is only worth at least it was some years ago, $1,600. All right, I don't know what it's worth now. That's a joke, but anyway. But the point is, when you have people that think, as we say, used to say back in the day, you know, I'm gonna hit this lick and I'm gonna get on. $1,600 is not gonna put you on. $1,600 is not a whole bunch of money. But the mindset of people like, oh, he balling, he got it, I'm gonna get him for his, $1,600 of marijuana, and you take someone's life. See, that way of thinking is not correct at all. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. So yes, it's the guns, but it's also a way of thinking.
So I had another follow-up question. So what about trafficking in terms of, and I would even say sexual, any sex activity? I know when you're transitioning into adulthood, things can get a little complicated. So is that an issue, or do you all think that that's something that we should think about at all?
Can you elaborate when you say trafficking?
Well, I mean, you know, I have a thinking, you know, and I think it's a growing thought that sometimes drug trafficking, and especially with young people, that they kind of get, like you saying, $1,600 won't put you on anything, but you can be part of a system that can get way out of hand. And so that can be part of a trafficking scenario, but also there's sex trafficking, there's all kinds of other things that people can get involved in at a young age and not even really know that that's part of what's going on. And especially sometimes it can kind of connect to gangs as well. So I was just wondering if that was something you all were concerned about, if that was issues that GPD or the sheriff have dealt with. Yes, Mr. Pittman.
I mean, I've seen the issue. I've had a couple clients that were under the age of 16 that were involved in prostitution, and one that ended up in a robbery murder situation because of it. So yeah, I think there is. I don't know that it's seen as much as some of the other issues are, but that's definitely been a concern that we've had. And I think that, you know, with the idea of sex trafficking there, especially when they're starting to get involved in these gang type activities, and I call them gang type activities because I don't really think that they are gangs. They are just 4 or 5 people getting together that are calling themselves a gang. But I think that when the females get involved, I think that's the role that they tend to be thrust into in those groups.
I like, yes, it is a sad face. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that? I'm just curious. I'm just asking probing questions so I know what people are concerned about, what their thoughts are. Or is there anything about, I know we had a quick conversation about mental health. Is there anything in particular about mental health? Are we, you know, sometimes people say the kids need to learn this, or they need to do that, or they need to learn how to communicate differently. I think it's one of the interesting things is that we know that social media and phones connect everybody, and the connection can get you into trouble. But on the flip side, how is it that we are disconnected when they are so connected that it gets them in trouble? Thought? Any behavioral? It's just a general behavioral question. If not, I'll find out later. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Craig.
Well, I will, and this is not only towards youth, but to our broader society. Look, the going thing right now, if you want to make a name for yourself, I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but people that are doing mass shootings, they're shooting people that they don't even have a problem with a lot of times. And I'm not, look, I'm not advocating violence, but if I got a problem with you, I got a problem with you. I ain't got a problem with everybody. I don't want to kill everybody, right?
Right,
But now
right.
it's like people are like, yo, I'm gonna shoot everybody. I'm like, what? That's crazy.
So are we seeing shootings going on? Are we seeing them like in schools? Are we seeing a lot of violence in the schools or?
I think
Yeah, yes.
I think we all ought to be concerned, increasingly concerned, if someone is going to go to school and act out simply because that's where a good number of people are, kids, children, and going back to Columbine and maybe even before, like I say, nowadays, that's the thing to do, whether you go to a school, a church, a theater, right? A job place. That's what people are doing. And what I'm saying is perhaps if we were not so susceptible, and we had these things going on in such an ongoing manner, it wouldn't be as appealing to us as they are. But it's becoming more and more appealing just to shoot people. And it's not even.
Okay. All right. So this is just the beginning conversation, and I think we kind of did some of the contributing factors already for this conversation. So I feel good with what we've done. So going forward, what I want us to think about is that we need to kind of have these conversations with different groups of people. And those different groups of people need to be the actual young people themselves. We want to hear from their perspective what they feel like the issues are that they're dealing with, why they're having interaction with authority, be it law enforcement or the schools or whomever, in the court system. We need to have some conversations with them. We need to have some conversations with the SROs and the officers themselves that are having the interaction as well. And I'd like to have a conversation with some parents from their perspective. What do they feel like is happening? And so that we can all go, hey, we all see synergy in different places, that we all see that there could be some issues and problems. Are there any other groups that you think we should try to have conversations with over the next month or so about what are some of the issues that our young people are facing here in Goldsboro and Wayne County? And this is really like to let the co-chairs know where we want to go next. Foster programs. Okay, that's a great one. Anybody else? This doesn't have to be done. I just wanted to throw it out there that who else do we, maybe depending on what the data shows us, I will then identify some other groups I think we need to talk to, like maybe it'll be some schools or something like that we need to have a conversation with. But mental health professionals and social workers, yes, absolutely. Teachers. And I'd like any youth program leaders. I think they have some interesting perspective on things. Okay. All right. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap this portion of the agenda up, if that's okay, unless anybody has anything burning on their heart. That we just really big thing we missed. Chief West, did you have anything you wanted to say to wrap that part up?
No, again, I think it's a very good discussion. And I think it gives us a lot of stuff that we can move forward with and look into. So.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so moving on our agenda, our next meeting will be Friday, August 20th. And I was having a conversation again with the co-chairs about we are behind. And so we need to start maybe putting in a little bit more time to get us on track to meet some of our goals and outcomes this year. So I just wanted to let you all know that we might need to start extending time or moving time to different times that we're going to need some flexibility. But our next meeting will be Friday, August 20th at 3 o'clock, I believe right now. So go ahead and keep that locked in, but I might ask for us to try to meet a little earlier, maybe, to start doing some of the education stuff that we need to start processing through so that you all can make informed contributions to the process. Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now? All right, so then I will do our last thing on the agenda is announcements and public comment that Dr. Craig asked to add on to the agenda. And then we are wrapped up. Anyone? Any announcements or public comment? Okay. Oh, is that you, Captain Adams?
Yes, sorry. I was trying to find my button. But talking about events and everything, I just want to mention to everybody tomorrow, July 19th, we from 12 to 2, we'll be out at the Rosewood Walmart. They are hosting a safety day, and we're having some events out there and raising money for Special Olympics. So if you're able to, from 12 to 2, we'd love to have you out there. We even have a dunking booth, and I don't know if the chief's getting in, but I know one of our officers is going to be in the dunking booth. So we'd love to have you out there.
Very cool. Anybody else? So my hope is that in the future that the co-chairs will come up with a mechanism or strategy of how we start building in public issues or comments into our overall strategy planning session so we can all kind of organize ourselves even better. But that will be part of the work that we do over the next month in preparation for August and going forward. So with that, unless anybody has any questions, I am going to officially wrap this meeting up. I'd ask that the co-chairs that have a few minutes left over, if they could stay behind, just for a quick debrief. And then we're done. Thank you all. Have a great weekend and have a great Juneteenth.
Have a good one. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
And happy Father's Day. Fathers always get forgotten, don't they?
I ain't gonna forget y'all. Y'all important. Have a good one now.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Don't leave, Mr. Pittman. You have joined the club now. And he left. Oh no, there you are. I was like, where? Everybody's moving so fast. Miss Jones, should I exit you? Okay, I'm gonna exit you. All right. Okay. All right, everybody, you can unmute yourself.
Good meeting.
Good meeting.
Oh, good meeting. Oh my goodness.
You did a lot.
Yeah.
Are you all happy with how that?
Judge Stackhouse, you're muted, by the way, just in case.
He said he had to go pick up a kid, so I don't know if
Right.
he'll be able to jump back in or not. But
Sorry,
So,
I'm here yelling at me and stuff. I'm here though.
okay. All right. I just wanted to, I'm happy with what I got out of everybody today. Do you all feel like we got some good stuff?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it went very well.
Okay.
A lot of notes for me to
Yeah.
follow up on.
A lot of stuff. I tried to keep up, plus it's recorded, so you'll be able to use this from now
Okay,
on.
good.
I'm gonna stop recording actually. Is that okay?
Yes.
If I can figure it out.